The Old Testament did not emerge in a cultural vacuum. It was written within the dense religious ecosystem of the ancient Near East, a world in which Egypt, Sumer, Akkad, Assyria, Babylon, and Canaan shared mythic structures, sacred symbols, and theological assumptions about how the cosmos was governed. To read the Hebrew Scriptures as if they arose apart from this environment is to misunderstand both their originality and their continuity. Rather than rejecting ancient religion outright, the biblical texts reframe, reinterpret, and reorganize inherited divine concepts. The result is not a sudden invention of monotheism, but a long and deliberate theological transformation carried out in dialogue with surrounding civilizations. Across the ancient world, cultures spoke a common symbolic language about reality. Though names differed, the roles of the gods were strikingly similar. Creation emerged from primordial waters. Order was established through divine speech or decree. Kings ruled by heavenly mandate. Law was believed to originate beyond the human realm. Chaos threatened creation and had to be continually restrained. In Egypt, the Ennead described a structured divine family governing cosmic forces. In Sumer and Akkad, the Anunnaki and Agigi oversaw fate, law, and kingship. In Canaan, El presided as high god, with Baal as storm warrior and enforcer of order. The Hebrew Bible participates in this shared vocabulary. Yahweh speaks creation into being, controls waters, storms, fertility, and victory in battle. He establishes law and judges nations. These functions were already well established in Near Eastern theology. What changes is how many gods performing them, and how authority is ultimately concentrated. The Bible does not deny the mythic grammar of the region, it reassigns it. One of the clearest indicators of shared ancient theology is the concept of the divine council, a heavenly assembly, in which gods deliberate, judge, and decree. In Ugaritic texts from QAnon presides over a council of gods. In Mesopotamian literature, Anu or Enlil convenes assemblies of divine beings. Egypt likewise imagined councils of Neteru maintaining cosmic order. The Hebrew Bible preserves this imagery with remarkable clarity. Passages speak of a heavenly host, sons of God, watchers, and messengers standing before Yahweh. Psalms describe God taking his place in the divine council. Job opens with heavenly beings presenting themselves before the Lord. Prophets envision thrones, courts, and assemblies in the heavens. These scenes are not poetic flourishes. They reflect a shared ancient assumption. Cosmic order is administered through a hierarchy of divine beings. What distinguishes Israelite theology is not the absence of such beings, but the supremacy and unchallengeable authority of Yahweh within that council. In the ancient world, law was never merely human. Justice was believed to flow from the divine realm into society. Mesopotamian kings received law codes from gods. Egyptian pharaohs ruled as guarantors of Mat. Canaanite kings governed under divine patronage. Law, kingship, and cosmic order were inseparable. The Old Testament continues this tradition. Yahweh is not only a God of worship, but a cosmic judge, lawgiver, and sovereign. He establishes covenants, delivers commandments, judges nations, and appoints rulers. This judicial role places Yahweh squarely within the ancient Near Eastern category of high God. Yet with a crucial distinction, his authority is not merely superior, it is ultimate. Other divine beings may exist, but they do not rival him. They serve, obey, or are judged. The biblical prophets repeatedly portray Yahweh, judging other gods, nations, and kings alike. In this way, the Bible transforms the ancient divine hierarchy into a moral universe centered on justice, covenant, and ethical responsibility. One of the most misunderstood aspects of ancient theology is the fluid boundary between divine beings and human rulers. In Egypt, pharaohs were living gods. In Mesopotamia, kings were chosen by gods, and sometimes deified after death. In Canaan, royal ideology linked kingship directly to divine sonship. The Hebrew Bible reflects awareness of this worldview, yet modifies it carefully. Israelite kings are called sons of God, anointed ones, and earthly representatives of divine authority, but they are never fully divine. They rule under God, not as God. Likewise, beings later translated as angels function in early texts more broadly as divine messengers, officials, or members of the heavenly court. The distinction between God, angel, and exalted ruler was not rigid. These categories hardened only in later theology. This fluidity explains why biblical language can appear contradictory to modern readers. A being may be called a god in one passage, a messenger in another, and a ruler in a third, because ancient thought categorized by function, not ontology. The Old Testament represents a theological revolution, but it is a gradual one. Early Israelite religion reflects a world in which multiple divine beings are acknowledged, that loyalty is demanded toward one supreme deity. Over time, this develops into the assertion that Yahweh alone is truly God. While other beings are subordinate, powerless, or false by comparison, this process is best understood as monolatry evolving toward monotheism, not as a denial of ancient cosmology, but as its ethical and metaphysical reorientation. The gods of the nations are not denied existence at first. They are demoted, stripped of sovereignty, judged by Yahweh, and eventually reinterpreted as powerless idols or lesser beings. In this sense, the Old Testament does not erase the ancient Near Eastern worldview, it subsumes it. When read within its proper context, the Old Testament appears not as an anomaly, but as a culmination. It inherits the shared mythic language of Egypt, Sumer, and QAnon. It accepts the reality of cosmic order, divine governance, and heavenly hierarchy. But it transforms these ideas by insisting on moral accountability, covenantal relationship, and the ultimate unity of divine authority. The gods of the Old Testament are therefore best understood not as isolated inventions, but as reframed ancient powers, reorganized around a single transcendent source. This does not diminish the Bible's uniqueness, it clarifies it. The Hebrew Scriptures stand at the threshold between mythic cosmology and ethical monotheism, carrying the memory of the ancient world while reshaping it into a new theological vision.